Hello, welcome to Pragym Technologies. I am Venkat. This is part 123 of ASP.NET video tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss about web form caching based on GET and POST requests. This question was actually asked by one of my YouTube subscribers related to part 120 of the ASP.NET video tutorial, where we discussed about caching multiple responses for a single web form. If you haven't watched part 120, I strongly recommend to do so before proceeding with this video. Let me give quick background information about the question asked by the YouTube subscriber. In SQL Server, I have this table TBL products which has got these 4 products. And we have this webform1.aspx which basically displays those products in the grid view control. And on this web form, I also have this drop down list control. At the moment, look at the selection in the drop down list. We have all selected, so all the products are displayed within the grid view control. Now if I want to filter the products that are displayed in the grid view control, I can do so by changing the selection in the drop down list. For example, if I change the selection to LCD TV, look at that, within the grid view only that product selected in the drop down list at the moment LCD TV is displayed in the grid view control. And another important thing to notice is the server time and the client time. Since we don't have caching enabled for webform1 at the moment, the web form is reprocessed every time we send a request back to the server. Now, since we have set auto postback property of the drop-down list control to true, every time we change a selection in the drop-down list, the web form posted back to the server, the web form is reprocessed, and hence the server time and the client time are the same things. Okay, now let's go ahead and enable caching. Obviously, to enable caching, we use the output cache directive. And at the moment, I have set the duration attribute to 120 seconds and vary by param is equal to none. So since we have set the duration to 120 seconds, this web form is going to be cached for 120 seconds. And since we have set vary by param to none, there will be only one response of this web form cached. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this web form. So let's close this. Let's run the web form with caching enable. Look at this. This web form is cached at 18:25:51. So the GET request for all products should have been cached at that point of time, 18:52:51. Now look at what has the user got to say. When we have set vary by param is equal to none and accessed webform1.aspx, the form displayed all products as expected. In select product drop-down list, all products is selected, and that's what we see here. And now when I change the selection in the drop-down list to iPhone, webform1.aspx get posted back to the server. The form is reprocessed. At this point, only iPhone product is displayed in the grid view control, and in the drop-down list, iPhone is selected. So look at this. When I change the selection to iPhone, okay, so iPhone is displayed in the grid view, and that's what is selected in the drop-down list. Okay, so let's look at the server time and client time. They are the same, meaning this web form is reprocessed at this point of time. Now let's go back to the first question of the user. Why was the GET request for the web form not cached for all product selection in the drop-down list? So when initially this web form loaded, we had that all product selection. So when I select all, look at that, it is reverting its selection back to iPhone. So I am getting the cached response for the iPhone selection, but I'm not getting the cached response for all product selection, which was initially displayed when we accessed this web form. Okay, so obviously the user question is, why was the GET request for the web form not cached for all products? The answer turns out to be the GET request for all product selection is actually cached. And to retrieve that cached response, all we need to do is go back into that web form, address bar, and then click somewhere over there, and then when we press enter now, it's going to send another GET request to the web server. Okay, because look at this, when I press enter, so a GET request is sent. Look at the time at the moment, 18:54:50. I think 2 minutes has passed. That's why this GET request is reprocessed again. But now look at this, when I change the selection to iPhone, okay, so the web form is posted back, and this postback request is cached. But then to get the initial GET request, look at that, click on the address bar somewhere, I click enter, look at the time, 18:54:50. That's when this web form is cached, the GET request. So obviously the simple answer is the GET request is also cached, And to retrieve a cached copy of the GET request, you need to send a GET request to the web server. And to send a GET request, all you need to do is, open another browser window, simply paste that URL and press enter, or simply go to the address bar and press enter, which will simulate a GET request to the server. Okay, so the answer to that question is the GET request for all products in fact is cached, and to retrieve that, in the address bar click anywhere and then press enter, which will send another GET request to the web server, and we should be getting the cached response for that GET request. So what's the second question? Why am I not getting the cached response for the GET request when I change the selection in the drop-down list to all? So the other interesting question to answer is, look at this. When I change the selection, okay, iPhone is cached at 1856.010. Now when I change the selection to all, why am I not getting the cached response for the GET request? Okay, why is it giving only this iPhone a cached response for this iPhone? Because technically when we select all within the drop down list, since we have set auto post back property to true for the drop down list, it is going to post back. So this is not, when you select all in the drop down list, the web form gets posted back. So that's a post back request for all product selection in the drop down list. It's not a get request for all product selection in the drop down list. And since we have a response cached for a post back request, in this case for iPhone, that's what I get when I send a post back request by changing the selection to all in the drop down list. So technically when you're changing the selection to all, you're sending a post back request. And since you're sending a post back request, you will get a cached response for that post back request. That's why it's not showing all, it's not serving you with the cached response for all products, because that's the GET request. Okay, whatever we have cached there is actually a GET request. So it's cached at 1857.26. Now if I change the selection to desktop, it gets reprocessed for that. Now if I change the selection in the drop down list to all, I will only get whatever is cached at that point of time, okay, for that post back request. But if I want the cached response of the GET request, I have to initiate a GET request by sending, clicking in the address bar somewhere and hitting enter. Okay, so obviously this is because when the selection in the drop down list is changed to all, a post back request is sent to the server. Since for the post back request there is already a cached version of the web form, we get that version and not the cached version of the GET request, because you are sending a post back request by changing the selection in the drop down list to all. So I think when we set vary by param is equal to none, then a separate response is cached for the get and post request. So this statement should clear all confusions about around these two questions, the first and second questions that we have just discussed. I welcome any suggestions to improve this answer. Please leave your valuable comments on this video. On the slide, you can find resources for ASP.NET C# and SQL Server interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.